Welcome to the Fast Mode podcast series. I'm Tara Neil, and with me today is Titus Jumper, founder of Jovee AI. Jovee is a custom, fully featured AI assistant designed to streamline contact center operations by understanding, empathizing, and engaging with customers in real time across multiple communication channels. Titus first began his career in sales with 2020 companies, and during that time became one of the youngest VPs at the age of 22. Titus then went on to found WePropel, Sales Hub, and Jumper Capital. In 2024, Titus and his team at the Sales Hub launched Jovee AI. Together, Sales Hub and Jovee deliver a comprehensive integrated solution that's built for the future of sales. Jovee joins us as part of our editorial segment on generative AI. Welcome, Titus. Great to have you on today's episode.
Thank you so much, Tara. I appreciate it. Good to be here.
Awesome. Okay, let's begin. Tell us more about Jovee. What solutions do you guys offer to CSPs?
Yeah, well, Jovee is one of the very first fully AI-driven contact center enhancement programs out there. It's not just an AI virtual agent that's handling one piece of the interactions, like a front-facing chatbot would be on the web zone, or maybe an inbound call center virtual agent. This thing literally handles the whole thing. You can do inbound calling, outbound calling, whether it be for marketing purposes, inbound calling for customer service. Jovee is the one that handles the entire thing. It's PCI compliant and can handle payments and pass the payments through into the CSPs. It's HIPAA compliant, for personal security information. And we actually are going through our high trust certification process currently, so we can have the data protection around it as well.
Mm-hmm. So it's essentially a contact service solution?
Yeah, if you would think about if you're contacting or contracting with a contact center, whether it be near shore, onshore, offshore, Jovee can handle every single piece of that work through AI. And it leverages a lot of human interaction on the back end. So it leverages AI for the humans to become more effective, more efficient, and reduces costs as well as scalability, increases scalability.
Awesome. So you just mentioned about AI, right? So how has generative AI reshaped the chatbot landscape, and what sets it apart from traditional solutions? So we wanted to ask you this because we are assuming that, for your contact center solutions, you do provide interface that is based on like AI or, a chatbot kind of interface. So would you like to, explain more about how do you do those, how do you provide that?
Yeah, well, I think AI is kind of like what everybody expected chatbots back in 2008, 2009 when they were first coming out. Like they would replace so many of customer interactions. And now most people would rather go to the dentist, even though I appreciate mine, than interact with the chatbot because of how ineffective they ended up becoming. We utilized chatbots pretty aggressively through our different channels about 6 to 7 years ago. And we actually appreciated it because you like the predictability and the repetitions that chatbots as a company and reduces costs. But as a consumer, like if I am a customer trying to interact with a chatbot, unless I'm following the direct, like we call it happy path of conversation, chatbots gets lost, and then you end up sitting there waiting to talk to a human anyways. What generative AI and what we've utilized Jovee to become in our flows in our systems is that it can understand context at a much greater scale, whereas chatbots originally couldn't understand context whatsoever. So you can, the customer, and along with sentiment analysis. So, as a customer is coming through and asking different questions, it can start with a technical support question and then end up with billing. And that's a lot of times things happen. It never stays on the same flow. So generative AI can understand the different flows as well as keep the customers happy through natural conversations.
I think I've never heard such an honest observation about chatbots. And honestly, from our personal experiences, we always see the chatbot on a website, and we feel that so tempted to use it to ask inquiries and for inquiries and stuff. And just realize that we did it again, where you're asking, a tool that barely is barely helpful sometimes because it just points you back to the same FAQs, and then it gives you that random answers, and then it gives you back the email that you should contact, right? So I
Of
guess,
course.
there's a lot of frustration, but because it's so enticing, because that little bot there, it's just like you are like trying your luck for the like maybe the hundredth time, so yeah, like what you pointed out. So I guess, so with generative AI, have people started embedding a generative AI into their chatbots, or is it like really very new?
I mean, within the past 2 years, a lot of people started opening their minds to the concept. I mean, we've seen through RFPs, both government and the private sector being very interested in it. I would say mostly as an information kind of concept. I think the smaller businesses are adapting AI at a little bit quicker pace. But what I've noticed is that bigger companies or enterprises, they want to like tiptoe in, which makes sense because utilizing AI to its fullest capacity as it stands right now, you almost have to reinvent your business a little bit. Because what we've noticed is that corporations or C levels, VPs are thinking about or wanting AI to function kind of like a chatbot. They want to follow a happy path and they don't understand the reasoning and the intelligence that AI actually has if trained properly and if the data is handled correctly. AI can be extremely helpful and extremely efficient in handling many different use cases. We obviously focus a lot in healthcare, finance, and telecom, but it can handle almost any use case out there to make a human more effective.
So you just mentioned about, data, right? So data is basically the most vital component of all this. So, and then when we bring these chatbots to different industries, so you have like sometimes, the financial industry, you have healthcare, and then you have telecoms. Do you have to like train your models, train your chatbots on different sets of data to be able to, respond to customer inquiries and stuff, correctly?
Yeah, I mean, that is honestly one of the most difficult heavy lifts of the whole piece of using AI is how do you create, you call it the knowledge base, right? How do you create that front-end knowledge base? So, just like training a new human to a job, you have to give that human, your training documents, brand and, brand guidelines. You have to do the same thing with AI, but it's the way it's structured. You have to have a team of people, and to be honest with you, people, our staff at Jovee AI, the biggest part of our staff is in training new client knowledge bases. So the back end models can understand the context and the intent of each and every interaction. But yeah, data security and the data handling and understanding how to train the agents or virtual agents when it comes to AI, it's very, very tricky. And we've been fortunate enough that we come from the sales customer service side, not necessarily the technical side of it, because we've noticed the more technical you become, you kind of start losing a lot of the context of what a customer actually is trying to achieve. And since we're a sales service company, we've been able to understand the context
Yeah.
to a lot of these interactions, which made that piece a little bit simpler for us, where we've noticed a lot of the competition has struggled pretty greatly at that part.
Wow. Okay. So, moving on to the latest fad that we have now, which is agentic AI, right? Which I honestly feel it's crowding out generative AI at the moment because everyone's just talking about agentic AI. So, as it gains attraction, how does it fit into the evolution of the AI-driven customer service?
I think it's going to play a big piece into it. Obviously, as technology advances, you want to utilize the technology that's the right fit. Sometimes, though, the newest fad isn't the right fit. We're still kind of, coursing through the different, positive and negatives of agentic AI. And we're finding that a lot of these customer service calls aren't necessarily needing that whole part of it. because they're fairly simple conversations that are trying to achieve the same goal. Like even if a huge company, let's say like a Verizon, a lot of these calls are coming in for 6 or 7 reasons of what they're trying to call in for. And you don't need to have this extremely complex back end. Like our models are actually fairly simple compared to a lot of the competition, simply because we know what we're trying to achieve in each interaction. Sometimes context, like the finance models that we're using, are fairly complex, but it's because they're fairly complex information paths to be able to accomplish a task.
So basically, when we talk about agentic AI, right? So you have like a chatbot that takes prompts and stuff, but it doesn't stop at just providing responses in text. What it does that it can actually execute tasks, right? Like for example, if you have a customer calling in and then telling you that they want a better plan, like a better telco plan, so the chatbot doesn't just give them the options, but actually can actually register the subscriber to that plan that they want. Is there such a scenario, is that the scenario we are looking at eventually when we have agentic AI in place?
Well, I mean, that piece of agentic AI is already being utilized here at Jovee. So when somebody calls in, it's not able to only converse with the individual, but is able to go in through the different systems, through APIs or however the connections are being made on the back end to solve the problem. So it's yeah, it's I would say that part of it is very important, and it helps streamline and make agents more efficient. What I would notice is that people, we like to solve complex problems, to challenge our
Right.
mind. And
Yes, yes.
we had thousands of call center agents, and they're handling the same question every day. Imagine how mundane and monotonous that is. So now we're able through Jovee to utilize the same agents, and they're able to solve problems more than just answer questions. And we've seen the morale for these agents from becoming an agent to more of a supervisor of the AI, to be able to handle those situations. And the morale's actually gone up. I'm sorry, I kind of weaved a little bit of around your question, but in essence, yes, agentic AI is going to help a lot with continuing to cut costs, continue to optimize customer service, and in the end, if done correctly, I think the population, general population, is going to be very excited, for the long run of how AI transforms their experience with their company.
Wow. So, building on that, we talked about data. You talked about data across different verticals, and you shared your experience, of what Joey is doing in terms of bringing all that data and using it to train the models and stuff. What other challenges do you face, in providing a chatbot service that is very data centric?
Well, as we're onboarding a client, this is one of the biggest pieces, and sometimes it can take a significant period of time, as in sometimes there's months, depending on how scrambled the customer's data or client's data could be. But you need to really go through and organize it, because past if you run a query and that's a certain way, but specifically like our model, we tap into different databases, whether they be the traditional databases, or even into the vector world. So yeah, the data handling is very important, and structuring it so the AI can understand it. We do something called chunking, like making things smaller so the AI can speed up the process of their response, because latency in natural language is obviously really important to be able to keep and captivate the consumer as they're using the AI, keeping them entrenched into the conversation.
All right. Okay. So, in your experience, when you go to CSPs environments, right, do they have the data infrastructure ready to support your chatbots?
Not We have not had one yet that had everything set up correctly.
Okay. So, you guys go in with that expertise as well?
Yes. If you don't
Okay.
have that piece specifically with the CSPs and how much volume that they handle, in my personal opinion, you're not going to get past, um, a higher end chatbot experience for the consumer to really get to the agentic AI, the ideal vision of AI that everybody's talking about now. You really have to go through, scrub the data, make sure all the brand guidelines are set up correctly, make sure like all of the pieces of the puzzle are put together. It's literally putting a puzzle together for these CSPs as they're onboarding to make sure that everything matches. That's why we've noticed also is because of how heavy that lift is that customers or potential clients, specifically CSPs, they want to like tiptoe in. So they will have like one specific pressure point, like
Yep.
let's try AI out here. And as AI performs well, then they gain trust to perform it in additional places. But to be like that fully featured call center or contact center solution that we talked about at the very beginning, we haven't seen a lot of traction for a company wanting to fully adapt that right away. But we have seen the interest of every company wanting to eventually adapt it, but they have to gain more trust, which makes sense for us as well. And it helps us being able to navigate onboarding a client a little piece at a time, whether in being able to do it all at once.
Do you see demand coming from a particular type of CSPs, or do you see the demand coming from like basically every type of operator, like mobile operator, fixed operator, or maybe by size? Do you see any trends there?
The only trend that I have not seen specifically extremely interested in is CSPs that are servicing the senior citizen population. I haven't seen much interest there at all. I think they're kind of writing it off. But there's not that many of them. So I would say in large, yes, it's
Okay.
extreme interest in on how to properly intimate or integrate AI into their current service solution to become better as well as to cut costs. I think that's what everybody is expecting AI to do. I believe personally, based on my own personal experience of fully implementing AI into my own company sales hub, I've seen that it's been very effective. It does take a little bit of faith and trust, but with the right partner, you can get there and you can get there faster than you probably can expect.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I just have one last question, and this comes from more of on the generative models themselves. We have text-based models, and then we also have Gen AI models that deal with non-text data, right? Like images, videos, and stuff like that. So, do we foresee in the future having chatbots that can actually, like, you can basically upload an image and then, talk to it, not with text, but with some other stuff. Like maybe you just turn on your video and then you just talk to it, like what we are doing now. Do you envision a chatbot that can serve you in that capacity?
Yeah, they're already out there. I mean, Jovee has an avatar function. I know a lot of the avatar or the picture recognition, things like that, or imaging recognition systems, they're not all tied together. That's why, when I try to explain Jovee to somebody, it becomes really complicated because it does so much. But
Yeah.
really, it depends on what the customers want. But, our avatars are more cartoonish. We think it's better to be not fully human, that a lot of times the people that are developing these avatars want them to look like a person, like it's interacting. I just think it's going to be almost impossible for a machine to fully replicate human interactions. That's my opinion. I may be wrong. But we like the cartoon approach just because it gives a lot more wiggle room for the AI to make a mistake and somebody doesn't
Yep.
really recognize it. Like if it makes a weird facial expression, oh, it's a cartoon. But if like an avatar
Yep.
like me
Yep.
or you made just a wrong eye twitch or a wrong
Yes.
eye movement, it's a big deal.
Yep. Yep.
So we like to be upfront. AI is AI. People are people. When human in the loop kicks in, we have human in the loop feature that all of our calls are constantly being monitored, flagged, and tagged by a human person. And if the AI is losing track, if it's hallucinating a little bit, which rarely happens, but it does happen. It's not perfect. It gets flagged and tagged over to an agent right away. So we want to make sure that there's a understanding of what you're talking to. Are you talking to a machine or are you talking to a person? And I think that's going to be respectable moving forward.
So I guess we can also customize our avatars. We can just
Yeah.
say, yeah, yeah, that would be an interesting feature, right? And an
Yeah. I
engaging
mean,
one as well.
obviously customers are going to want different brand guidelines, right? You know, uh, it just depends on what client you're trying to serve and your target customer.
Oh, I was thinking from the customer point of view, like, you log into this website, like maybe a CSP website, and then you want to be served by a certain avatar. So you can basically say, I want to be served by Aladdin, for example. And
Oh,
you get.
it
So,
technically can do it. I think that might be a little expensive for the CSP to offer that service right now. And I think it might create a little bit of confusion, but you could technically do it for sure.
yeah, right. Okay. Yep. I'm just exploring the possibilities here. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I guess, Titus, we are, we've explored all these topics and we are now at the end of the session. So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing these brilliant insights. Really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. I really appreciate you being on and taking the time to talk to me. Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. And for everyone tuning in, thank you guys for listening. If you want to learn more, visit Jovee.ai. That is spelled JOVEE.ai. And follow us for more updates and insights as we continue to uncover the latest in technology and telecommunications. See you in our next session. Bye bye.